The Taoiseach is to arrive in Washington, D.C. shortly ahead of that highly anticipated meeting with President Donald Trump tomorrow. Before that, Vice President JD Vance will also host Micheál Martin and his wife Mary for a St. Patrick's Day breakfast at his official residence. The annual celebration of Irish-American relations is under increased scrutiny this year following US clashes with European and other allies over trade tariffs and its position on Ukraine. Let's have a quick word now with our global security editor, Yvonne Murray. She's standing by for us now. So all eyes firmly fixed on the White House there behind you tomorrow, Yvonne. Is the format, do we know, nailed down? Are we looking at a fireside chat? Are we looking at a wider press conference? Will the Taoiseach be, fielding questions from the entire global media? Do we know?
Well, it's more or less nailed down, Sharon. It starts with that breakfast at the Vice President's residence, as you mentioned, in the morning, and then the Taoiseach moves on to the White House for that bilateral meeting with Donald Trump. And before proceedings kick off there, we do expect that there will be a fireside chat in the Oval Office. And after that, he'll go on to Capitol Hill, meeting members of Congress, and then finally the Shamrock ceremony in the afternoon. Now, nailed down and pretty much following tradition and the conventions that have been laid down by previous administrations celebrating St. Patrick's Day over the years. But Donald Trump is an unconventional president. And I think there's potential for some tricky moments, especially in front of the media at that fireside chat, for example, when he opens up the floor to questions, as he's known to do in a very kind of freewheeling fashion. And of course, there are points of very deep division between the United States and Ireland on things like Israel, Gaza, on Ukraine, and of course on trade tariffs. So I think people will be watching very closely to see how some of those difficult questions are handled. But I think here, talking to people on both sides of the political divide, Irish-American politicians, I think there's a sense here, or a hope at least, that the Irish-American relationship will endure. But there's also a sense that we're living in very unpredictable times, and frankly, that anything could happen.
It's a tradition passed down through the decades, a symbol of the bonds between these two countries. About 30 million Americans claim some Irish ancestry, including most recent presidents, except, that is, for Donald Trump. But declaring March Irish-American Heritage Month, the president had this to say.
Great people. Great people.
St. Patrick's Day is coming up as well.
And they voted for me in heavy numbers, so I like them even now. You have to like it. You're not supposed to, but you have to like that.
Ireland's Heritage Month was announced by the President in a very positive way also. I think it's an opportunity to celebrate that in the first instance, and then to discuss the issues of the day. And obviously the economic relationship will be a very strong and key part of it.
But Mr. Trump's political opponents warn that his good favour isn't guaranteed.
So I do think there is real fear, and justifiable fear, that at any moment Donald Trump is so unhinged he could point the finger at any U.S. ally. I'm hopeful he won't do that toward Ireland. I haven't heard any indications he would. But, attempting to figure him out, I would have to be a psychiatrist.
The last world leader to visit Donald Trump in the Oval Office was the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. That encounter descended into a shouting match, and Mr. Zelensky was ejected from the White House. Tomorrow's meeting is largely ceremonial, but it's still high stakes.
There is no other country on earth that gets the treatment that Ireland does when it comes over for 24 to 48 hours. I think the Taoiseach has it in his hands to either strengthen or weaken that relationship in a 24-hour period. The choice is his.
The festivities kick off tonight with a reception at the Irish Embassy. The Taoiseach will meet the Vice President and President tomorrow. Yvonne Murray, RTE News, Washington.